on that point that Otiende raised, in comparing water, sometimes I ask myself, can any government in this world anywhere claim to be successful if, for example, you cannot provide the most basic of all? And sometimes I find it very challenging when I go to some countries, because there are some countries, Dibal, where you go and you book a hotel room and they tell you, here you can drink water from the tap. There are many countries out there, and they don't even give you bottled water in the room, because the water in the tap is drinkable. Can any government argue, and for example, ask about governments like ourselves and others around Uganda, Kenya, where we are in the midst of water. The biggest freshwater lake. We have forests with the biggest rivers, rain that rains for 3/4 of the year. You'd be asking yourself, who would claim, for example, to be successful in public management and in leading their people if the most basic of facilities and commodities and necessities is at a premium? That every time, as Otiende says, that when you go to a meeting, if you go to a room now, anywhere in this republic, even if you're paying 200 to be accommodated, the first thing that you must have is a blue bottle of water. I think it's a sign of it's a sign of failure, if you ask me. A
sign of failure, and of course we were grappling with the fact that also as a country, we are a water scarce country, listed of course in the world as a water scarce country, with all these water bodies that we're talking about here in the country. The question is, even moving forward, I was in a forum where people are debating about how in Turkana we have the water aquifer right now that can actually feed this country for the next 70 years. And people are saying, this is saline water. It cannot be converted. The cost of converting this particular saline water to potable water, it will be so much. And I wonder to myself, other countries have actually managed to convert saline water to potable water.
Yes.
When we're grappling with issues of water in Turkana, we have a water expanse, a water table that can actually feed that particular country for 70 good years. Is it a failure then from the government and you as leaders as well to try and push the envelope, even from the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, to make sure that this water has been converted to potable water and feed Turkana where people die every day? So we have resources, but we don't have the mindset to convert these resources to, to be of exceedingly beneficial value to the people who deserve it, like the people of Turkana. Why should we be a water scarce country and we have an aquifer that is, exceeding and will actually feed this country for the next 70 good years? I think we're joking, aren't we? This is a big joke.
From 2002, the investment in the water sector, if you look at the actual money, both by donors and whatever, by the government itself, it's astronomical. But when you look at the result on the ground, there is nothing. In fact, that has been the biggest corruption scandal in this country that has never been unveiled properly. The investment in the water sector, even as we speak now, is still very heavy. And I mean, you remember even the Kimaror and what, it's still in the water sector. So this particular issue is a big problem. And as I said at the beginning, that when the rain started beating us was when we allowed ourselves to be at the mercy of the IMF and the World Bank. We started prescribing things that could not work in our setup. And we had sort of extricated ourselves from that situation. But now, thanks to mismanagement, now we've headed back again to the news of IMF and World Bank. That's why we could get dictated to that we should remove the interest cap.
Yes.
That's a dictation from the Bretton Woods institutions, because we've taken ourselves back there. And those are the people who prescribed the things that started messing up this country.
To the structural adjustment that was there in the 90s.
That's what started messing up this country, whereby they even, for heaven's sake, they even privatized cattle dips and said now wananchi should pay for the animals there. They stopped the agricultural extension officers. That was all structural adjustment.
And the cattle dips were well managed by the farmers themselves,
yeah,
right? When we had the cattle dips being managed by the community, and then the government took over this particular properties, and we can see what really happened today.
Let me agree with Dr. Selisimiu. The first things first. You remember when the structural adjustment programs was a big thing, everyone was talking about them. The truth is it failed, not just in Kenya. And when it failed, those who were pushing for it were very quiet. They've never admitted that the structural adjustment programs failed or ought not to have been pushed. And the moral of that story is that each country must always prioritize what's best for it first before we accept anything that is brought by way of imposition. And I think that's the moral of the story. And that goes for all these things, including, you know, removing interest rates and all that. But the second thing is, to your question, Dibal,
Yes.
it is true we have failed. And it is not just us who are leaders now, it is the generation before us. We have failed. Because look at the question of water. Before you go to Turkana, many countries, you go to Dubai, they have plenty of water. They do desalination from the water from the sea.
Yes.
Why wouldn't we even do that for Mombasa? Mombasa has the biggest problem. Why wouldn't we do that for those? So, look at where I come from.
Yes.
Kisumu has a big problem, and it's such a shame. Whenever you're in Kisumu and you're in any tall building, you see this expanse of water, fresh water, the second biggest freshwater lake in the world. But the very city next to it cannot get water. My own constituency, I have 224 kilometers
Yes.
of the shoreline. My own constituents don't have water. And we struggle every day. Now, either it's through national government or through private enterprise, so you put some tank that can at least give a few families some water. The truth is, if we were doing our priorities right, if our politics was not about which part of the country should be developed and which one should not over the years, before you even go to desalination and all, the water from L.Victoria is enough to provide everyone in this country with drinkable water without anything, with very minimal input. I will tell you that, like, for example, the water we use in my constituency, the input is very, very minimal in terms of purification because there's not much to be purified. We have just failed. And what we need to do, and that's the point I was making, that rather than make peace with the fact that let's now all drink plastic water from Keringet or wherever else, we must keeping government on its toes, whether it's the national government or the county government. Why should we have that much water lying idle there, waiting to flow down the Nile so that it can provide the people of Egypt with drinkable water? And if you go to Egypt, they don't have that problem. And we are the source, and we have that problem. We must admit that we have failed. But in our failure, we must keep hoping that we will improve with the choice of leadership, with the choice of programs that we...
Right.